Yeah, but I think the first craziness that we need to get to is the story with Nico and the transferring that's going on. So let me just go quickly through the kind of the timeline of everything that's kind of happened here. So obviously Nico was a huge prospect out of Southern California. He was the number 3 overall recruit in the class of 2023, number 2 quarterback behind Arch Manning. Um, but he went out to SEC country. He followed kind of the Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, like not going to a Southern California school, which we can talk about that a little bit later. UCLA was in his final top 12, but USC was not. He spent 2 years at Tennessee. The first year he was a backup. The second year he led the team to CFP. It seemed like things are really progressing in the right way and exciting for them. Now his brother, who was also a top high school recruit in this last cycle, he had been committed to UCLA in May of 24. Signing day, he flips from UCLA to Arkansas. Allegedly, that might have had something to do with Eric Bieniemy leaving at the time, but I won't get into the speculation around that. Then come December 24th, Joey Aguilar from App State, who had a great year with them, he goes into the portal. 4 days later, he comes to UCLA. So it's like UCLA now has their quarterback to kind of figure out for this next season. Then come to April 12th, Nico, he enters the transfer portal. 8 days later, he says he's going to UCLA. The very next day, Aguilar says, all right, well, now I'm going to the portal, and he's going to Tennessee. So in theory, this is like even though it's not really, but it's like the first ever trade in college football. Aguilar going from UCLA to Tennessee, Nico going from Tennessee to UCLA. What's ironic, I saw this morning, Aguilar actually has higher Heisman odds right now than Nico does going into the season, almost twice as better odds of that. Then that same day that Aguilar enters the portal to go to Tennessee, Madden Iamaleava is now going into the portal and coming back to UCLA. So it's like just this whole swirl. There was even rumors out there that Robert McDaniel, who we saw at Elite 11 last year, who had decommitted from Arizona to go to UCLA last year, that he was going to go in the portal. Now, those reports were coming out Monday night. Tuesday morning, he was at UCLA practice. So we'll see how things progress there. But as of right now, as we're recording this on a Tuesday afternoon, that is not true. But it's just, an unbelievable saga and such a caption of what's going on in college football right now. Like it's just things are completely off the rails.
Okay. We said we're going to be thoughtful.
Respond.
Yeah. We're going to be thoughtful.
Yeah.
I think the first thing to do in this is to zoom way out. And if we were on this show or any show in late December, right? You said December 24th was when Joey Aguilar hit the portal, and on the 20th he went to UCLA. So if we were talking, call it mid-January, and we said UCLA has Nico Iamaleava on their roster at quarterback, how would we feel?
Excited for UCLA.
Yeah, this is huge. Yeah. This is monstrous. Like, are you kidding me? They have not been able to land an elite QB like this in recruiting really since Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Or when I think elite, I often think of like the premier Elite 11 guys. And Robert McDaniel, you're right. They flipped him late. He was an Elite 11 guy. Was going to Arizona in advance of signing day. But we would say, wow, this is awesome. So I think like when we net out of it, and even if you're Tennessee and you're like, hey, we're going to get Joey Aguilar, you're going to get a really talented, I think it was the highest rated transfer portal quarterback, at least at the time, you'd be like, yeah, okay. Like, you're not that, to me, if you zoom out, you're like, UCLA wins in this regard if you're going to comp those two places. They have one of the best quarterbacks in America who led a team to a CFP berth. That's where I kind of like, I'm like, okay, let's just enter the conversation from there. Now it gets really nuanced because it's the timing of post-spring. So on one hand, this is a Tino Sinceri offense. He is running this offense for Deshaun Foster. I know this offense pretty well. This is not the air raid. This is not 5 routes. This is not, 8 concepts in the passing game. Like, this is a very intricate offense. So on one hand, you're like, oh, and this is when you can get negative on it, right? Like, God, missed spring. It's really hard to learn the system. And I agree with a version of that. And it's also the staff's job to get him ready. And I've known Tino since he was in college at Pitt. He's going to do that. I mean, Nico Iamaleava is going to be primed to play for the Bruins. And I think they should. I think you net out the Heisman odds. I think to sit here and say like UCLA's roster is better than Tennessee's roster, we just be like, no, like it's just further along in the build at Tennessee than where UCLA sits right now at Deshaun Foster. In addition, I would say, what does this move signify about UCLA? It signifies that they can go out and get one of the best players in the world. It signifies that players want to play in LA. It signifies that Deshaun Foster has a magnetic element to him in his second year. And what I would claim really like the first year. He was hired in February. Right. He had to kind of makeshift the staff to a certain degree. Obviously didn't see eye to eye with Eric Bieniemy. He's out after the season. In comes the guy who's going to run his offense in the style in the manner in which they desire in Tino Sincero, who I think is an absolute star. I mean, star, all caps, in coaching. So I think when we kind of relax and look at it, like, win for UCLA. And then you add in the other element, which is Mikey Matthews, transfers from, he was at Utah, then Cal. Now, right, he's at UCLA as a wide receiver. Like, there's the Nico effect that I think will support the transfer portal. Now, to be fair, there was rumors about Nico Iamaleava leaving Tennessee late last season, right? So I think all of us kind of like really in the know. You don't want to talk about those because they're just rumors, right? But there has to be a thread of truth. So clearly, like, there was a world where he was thinking, like, do I want to go back home? Do I want to leave on the situation that I'm already on? They go on this run, and no one in the college football world thinks he's going to leave. After you lead your team to CFP, you're at Tennessee, a blue blood, 100,000, blah, 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 blah. But he does. So that's his truth. This also can be true, I believe. And this is what I will say to the Robert McDaniels of the world. I saw Robert on Friday. I was at UCLA's Friday Night Lights practice, got to watch it, took our flag team. It was an amazing experience. A couple thousand people were out there. It was fun. I would say to all the quarterbacks, the thing that we end every newsletter with, which is stay steady. Look at what just happened in the timeline, Jim, that you just gave us, right? Yeah. Like, you know, Nico's brother, Madden, enters the portal. He goes back to UCLA. Who would have thought that was going to happen? Robert McDaniel flipped to UCLA because it was one of his dream schools last minute. Like, so for all of those that think they need to react when something happens in their position room, I would say don't. Because it can happen just as fast again, right? Like a year from now, I hope to God Nico Iamaleava does not hit the portal again. I hope that Madden Iamaleava does not hit the portal again. I hope none of that happens. But we've seen crazier things happen. We just basically saw a trade for two experienced players in major college football in the Big Ten and the SEC, two places that were paying their quarterbacks probably the most that they could, or at least the most they chose to, which was a healthy amount. Probably more than a lot of the position coaches were making on the staff. So I just would urge everybody in this to, like, you said saga, a great word. Take a breath, let the saga go, and go compete. Because I do think that even if Joey Aguilar stayed at UCLA, I know Deshaun Foster well enough. I talked to him last week. He came on the set of Good Morning Football when this was all rumored to be happening. And I said, tell me about the culture of your program. He goes, everything's just based on competition. Every coach I've ever met are just going to play the best guy. We have Will Stein coming up later in a conversation. He was a walk-on quarterback. He was the most trusted guy as a walk-on and started at Louisville versus the highly recruited, beautiful-looking quarterback. Like, every coach in America is going to play the guy they trust the most. Regardless of that, Joey Aguilar was out the door, and he goes in at UCLA, and I'm excited for the Bruins. Eyes are on them for the first time in a long time based on the players, especially offensive players. I'll leave you with this on the Bruins. I think that LA, and I learned this from Jurgen Klinsmann, who's the one-time U.S. national team soccer coach. I think that cities are oftentimes reflective of the culture that the city inhabits. UCLA, we like lights, we like speed, we like flash, we like the beach. We love LA, baby. We love offense. The Bruins are sexy on offense for the first time in a while. And they had what I will coin a Hall of Fame coach in Chip Kelly as a play caller. Like, they had versions of that. It just never really got to what everybody thought it would be. They got to 8, they got to 9 wins, but they never had that guy that you're like, I want to go watch that quarterback go play. Dorian was the last guy. Dante Moore was early on, but then he gets benched. Now he's at Oregon. I'll see him this weekend. Nico's that guy. I have 10 points on as a Heisman voter, 10 categories. One of the 10 is, would I pay to see him play? Today, I'd pay to see Nico Iamaleava play for UCLA. Thankfully, I won't have to because I get paid to do that, which is really fun as a broadcaster. So I guess the last part, the part that really to me is going to challenge this UCLA team, because we got to keep it real, is that you just make a trade, you get rid of you bring in a new quarterback, your presumed starter leaves, and you still have a week left in spring ball. I'll challenge the UCLA team, and I know that Deshaun Foster and Tino Sinceri and company have done as well. Don't let it go to waste. You might not have your quarterback on the roster right now, but you have quarterbacks on the roster. You're still building a culture, discipline, respect, enthusiasm, the pillars for Deshaun Foster. Like, don't just whatever. Like, I thought about it. Like, if I was calling their game in 2 weeks, they got 2 weeks left of spring football. Like, that's a lot. That's half of spring football.
Right.
It's a lot of time. Like, you have to go get better. So to think that one player is going to be your savior, we know that does not work. Ask the Rutgers basketball team. Don't they have like 2 of the top 5 NBA draft lottery picks potentially? And they never met the expectations that come along with that. Yep. Yeah. So don't miss the 2 weeks, fellas. So there it is.
And I think that's going to be the thing too, is now talking about expectations. There are going to be a lot of expectations on Nico, especially on the way things ended at Tennessee, because became so much focus on him. So how is he going to handle,
so good,
that kind of pressure? Because it's not like people didn't know who he was, but he became the talk of college football for 2 weeks.
Well, I'll say this: the episode we dropped earlier in the week, Dr. Michael Gervais, high performance psychologist. I asked him this specific question of like, what advice might you give? How can someone navigate when they're getting praise and blame, right? Praise and blame are all the same, is the famous Chip Kelly quote. He goes, you have got to lean into your first principles. So what are the things that matter most to you? And I would say that for Nico Iamaleava and his team and his camp, whether that's his family, his representation, whatever, it cannot be the things that don't matter, which is like, I'm back in LA, let's have a celebration. Like, it has to be, he has got to play catch up right now. Like, what he's doing is what Ohio State had to do. They played into mid to late January. They didn't get as many weeks in their offseason program as other teams around the country. You got to catch up. It happens to Super Bowl winners. Now it's happening to your quarterback. Like, I know that he is not enrolled yet, I believe, but I would imagine, and I don't know if this is like, I'm going to go there. I would imagine he's already got the playbook. And I would hope that he is there every single day in every meeting, just like a committed recruit would be prior to them signing their, what used to be a letter of intent, whatever. Is the point is that, like, you got to catch up. That would be the first principle, is just the grind, the work necessary to go serve your teammates.